Hi lovies, welcome back to this channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda's channel. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload a video, you will be the first person to be notified. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so much for all the love and support. To those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and also educate you guys are the real MVP. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Alright lovelies, let's dive into this video. So lovelies, I came across this video on my For You page on TikTok and I find it super educating because this pan-colored woman decided to talk about how it's not only black people that went through slavery. She went ahead to talk about how pan-colored people are also victims of slavery and black people should just cut it with thinking that everything is all about them. But this sister decided to set record straight with one of other stitches I was able to put together. I'm just gonna roll the clip as well of those stitches. Please give me your own thought in the comment section and let's dive into it.
Because we were all told it's whitewashed, so I'm looking for other sources and things like that. And I bring it here and I try to talk a little bit about what I've learned and stuff. And I'm told I'm wrong. I'm told I'm a racist. I'm told I'm a white supremacist.
Hi, Miss Crazy Train. I went through your videos, and I think I might be able to help you understand why you're being called a racist and a white supremacist.
Leaving me a comment and calling me a Mayo Mrs. and telling me that I was entitled. And I did a video on her comment, and I said, I can't say things like that.
Quick question. Why did you as a white person feel the need to point out that you can't say things like that? Which you can. There's just consequences. But by pointing that out, what exactly were you trying to prove?
I am not denying slavery happened here. I'm not denying chattel slavery. I'm not denying any of that stuff. But I will continue to point out that white people weren't the only ones involved or the only ones.
Again, I would like to ask you, what are you trying to accomplish by pointing out that white people weren't the only ones involved with slavery? What is your goal in doing that? Because it's very interesting to me in all of these videos that you make where you try to emphasize on the fact that white people had been slaves, white people weren't the only ones involved, Africans sold other Africans, all of these talking points that you're trying to point out in your videos. Never do you distinguish the differences between chattel slavery and the slavery that you are mentioning. You also fail to mention when race was even created as a concept in the first place. So I have a lot of people in my comments once again trying to convince me that white people were victims of chattel slavery just as bad, if not worse, than black people during the transatlantic slave trade. And while we do acknowledge that yes, Europeans have been slaves on multiple occasions, what we're failing to kind of understand and realize are the differences between the types of slavery and how slavery morphed, grew, changed when it was brought to the New World. Traditional definitions of slavery have stressed that the slave is the other person's chattel or property, and that the slave is subject to sale or other forms of transfer. The slave's will is subject to the owner's authority, and that the slave's labor or services obtained are always through coercion, usually with a whip or other instruments meant to inflict pain. When speaking on slavery in a latter context, it very well may have been modeled after the domestication of animals, especially livestock or beasts of burden, i.e. chattel, from the Latin word capitalis, which is the root word for both cattle and capital. And this is further proved with the introduction of Aristotle's ideas and the dehumanization of the African in regards to slavery. Slavery has always been part of human civilization, as far back as records record, in places like Egypt, China, Russia, and Rome. But nothing was really like the racial slavery that overtook the Western Hemisphere. Were there ethnic stereotypes based in the slavery of that time? Of course. That is called xenophobia. It has been argued by scholars like Orlando Patterson that defining humans as property is of secondary importance and is not an essential constituent of slavery. He defines slavery the permanent, violent, and personal domination of natally alienated and generally dishonored persons You can read his classic book, Slavery and Social Death, for a better understanding of that sentence. He also argues that the slave is in the condition of social death. What he means is, the slave and his or her descendants are torn away and uprooted from the original family, clan, ancestors, or any legal descendants. So in theory and in law, the slave has no legitimate, independent being, no place in the cosmos, except as an instrument of the master's will. Now, adding in the crucial element of chattel property is adding in the animalization of the slave. And this, coupled with scientific racism, the pseudoscience we see emerge with Aristotle's teachings and those who followed him, we see the foundations of chattel slavery endured by Black people. When have white people experienced that? If I'm not mistaken, you're talking about the Barbary slave trade. Barbers were Arab pirates who were inhabiting North Africa, along the coast of Morocco down to Libya. They preyed on European coastal settlements and ships, often capturing the crews of these ships and taking them to port cities in Morocco and Algeria. Now, the men that were sold into slavery were made to work quarries or row boats, and they were treated as you would expect a slave in this time to be treated. Bread and water for a meal, one set of clothes, sometimes often dying while in their positions of labor. The women were often taken to harems and often were continuously abused during their time there. Now, at this time, Spain was becoming pretty powerful because of its grip over the Americas. Spain had been united under the ruling of Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella, following their expelling of the last remnants of Muslim power when they took Granada. Now, most of these Muslims and Jews that were expelled moved to North Africa and took up piracy. Now, this resulted in collaborations between the Barbary pirates and the Ottoman Empire to combat the Spanish. Now, during this time, it was a very common practice for these captured European Christians to convert to Islam, thus gaining their freedom from slavery. Some slaves, after converting and gaining their freedom, were able to secure high positions in society and even positions of power, especially in the naval forces. You see, at this time, during this type of slavery, it was 100% possible to climb the social ladder, even after having been a slave. In the late 1570s, the Ottoman Empire and the Spanish signed a truce, resulting in less hostility between them. During this time, the Ottoman coastal states had gained more freedom from Constantinople. This meant that the Barbary pirates' goals went from political goals to socio-economical gain. That meant an increase in slavery, leading to an increase of raids. So Islamic law claimed that slavery should only be carried out on non-Muslims, and only in such conditions like war. It's likely that these Barbary pirates likely saw the enslavement of European Christians as a way to gain wealth, and this is highlighted by the fact that a growing number of European pirates traveled to the Barbary coast to partake in the slave trade and to secure their fortunes, specifically the English and the Dutch. Now, when thousands of Europeans began to voluntarily join the Barbary pirates, they brought with them knowledge of the naval forces from their countries. This resulted in European navies developing ships that were far more protected from attacks. By the 18th century, European countries with powerful navies forced peace among the Barbary coast. And in 1798, with the arrival of Napoleon to North Africa, European dominance was forced. By 1830, the British, the French, and the US had put an end to the Barbary slave trade. That slavery was not generational, nor was it based on race.
Welcome back, my global citizens. Happy motherfucking Saturday. Stop scrolling, listen up, and hit that follow button. Although slavery was enacted for thousands of years all across the globe, there are different types of slavery. And it's important to understand this point because when people say, you Africans sold your own people into slavery, yes, but with a different idea of what slavery actually was. There was debt slavery. There was criminal slavery. There was slavery due to conquest. There was military slavery. But indentured servitude and chattel slavery was unique to European colonizers. Indentured servitude was primarily enacted by white slaves. They had a fixed period of time in which they were enslaved to their masters, and then they were set free. But chattel slavery is when they own people like property. That slavery is unique to America, specifically for profit. They never had any intent of releasing these slaves or making them free. They were owned, their children were owned, their children were owned, and the type of brutality that was enacted against Africans that were brought over to America was particularly brutal, particularly heinous. Rapes, murders, and maiming were unique to our European colonizers. So when people tell you that slavery was the same all around the world, it was not. It was not. And in America, European colonizers enacted chattel slavery as a unique form of cruelty against their African captives. So during this Black History Month, which I say fuck Black History Month, we need to recognize that slavery was not the same around the world. So learn up, my global citizens. I love y'all. Peace.
Oftentimes, a lot of people, not only pan-colored people, even other POC people, decide to come out to talk about how it's not only black people that went through slavery, that every other, race went through slavery, every other people have slaves and all of that. That what black people should just, cut it with the victim mentality and all of that without actually realizing the reason why it's as if, black people's own are the one that is so extreme. Black people went through the toughest of it all because they went through chattel slavery. Here is a situation whereby if you're a slave or if you have been bought to be enslaved by someone, that means automatically your offspring, if you gave birth to your children, like a generational thing, you or your children that you are, giving birth to are automatically slaved or enslaved, and you are owned by the slave masters or whatever. Just like the way properties and own, like chattel slavery, they are just like property. Like when you acquire this property, you own this property. Anything that has to do with the property, the offspring of the property, anything applicable to that property, you are a sole ownership. You own this property, so you have the right to do whatsoever you want to do to the said property you bought. That is why it's as if black people are the ones that went through all the torture, humiliations, and what have you. Like they don't have the opportunity to actually live where they were. Like they are automatically owned compared to other enslaved people that you can actually serve a term for a short while and you're automatically free. Like I talked about these Irish people and how Irish people took it upon themselves to become the second in command of the pan-colored people that enslaved them. The Irish people, they are just as a kind of people that carry out oppression. They serve a number of them, after which they are free and they are also entitled to own their own slave. This opportunity was not actually given to black people. And to even crown it all of those people that own slaves, that was enslaved, are be giving reparations. And up to date, black people and are not. They've not been given any form of reparation, and these people are the ones that single-handedly build whatsoever anyone is enjoying. This is the difference. A lot of pan-colored people are all out talking about how we were also enslaved, and making it seem as if all of the slaves are all the same. If you're talking about pan-colored people being enslaved in a certain period of time, this is not a chattel slavery. Probably they were, enslaved to serve a master. After a given period of time, you are free to actually own your own slave. But black people have not, they don't have such opportunity. They are like a property. They're like maybe a cow. You just bought a cow and you own the cow. Maltreat, do whatever you want to do with this cow. The difference is big. In slavery, there is still privilege in slavery. So, and it's so unfortunate that black people do not have such privilege. They have never had privilege, even during slavery and even when slavery is abolished. So this is just different. And enough of all this, oh my god, every other person have slave. There's a video I staged where an Asian woman, she was talking about how black people there's the problems, people, with your pity cards and all of that, every other person owns slave and blah blah blah. But she have totally forgot that black people experience are way more harder compared to every other persons that they felt was also enslaved. And these other people were actually giving reparation. The slave owners were giving reparation. The slaves were giving reparation. But what happens to black people? What happens to them? They were the ones that actually did the extreme work. They are the ones that suffered the most. They are the one that was brutal. Like, oh my goodness. Anyway, lovelies, why not just leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. And do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying, harassment, or whatsoever. We're just here for educational and informative purposes. So please, share this video, subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Why not just leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. And do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying, harassment, or whatsoever. We're just here for educational purposes. So please, share this video, subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that. And I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.